Okay, here's everything that comes in the box with your new lighted door seals for your 5th generation Camaro. Tools needed are going to be pliers, a ruler or a flat object to run the wires, and possibly some wire strippers. It's very important before proceeding with anything at all that you do test the lighting to make sure the lighting works before you begin installation. This is a very simple process. Open the hood of your car, lay the seal somewhere protected, separate the wires, take the positive wire, connect it to this positive terminal here, lift the cap off, and there it is. Just touch it to that, and this is where you ground it. Again, this is where you touch the positive wire. This is where you touched the negative wire to confirm lighting. You do want to make sure while you're testing you are in a shaded area or dark environment. You will not see the lighting at full brightness in direct sunlight. If you cannot confirm that the lighting works, do not proceed with the rest of the installation. Call us immediately. Okay, step 1 is that we are going to prepare the surface to mount the product to. If your car has one of the very thin door seal strips that looks like this, it's very thin, it does not cover the entire panel. This is basically a stick-on, and you'll need to remove this. Get something flat, wedge under the end of it, and just pry it up. It'll come off just like a sticker. If you want to do it more quickly, you can apply some heat to it with a heat gun or hair dryer. Here's what they look like when you pull them up. You can put them on some plastic if you want to save them for later, if you ever want to stick them back down on the paint. There's also some other various graphics that could be on these stick-on type of seals, come from the factory, and you'll need to remove any of them. You'll just want a bare painted surface if you do have those stick-on seals. If you have this factory door guard here that covers the lip of the rocker panel, they're a lot more thick and plastic, bulky looking. You're going to want to leave these in place. These are not removable, and ours are designed to go over the top of these or to fit perfectly down onto the painted surface if you have the other kind. So at this point, go ahead and clean these entirely on the passenger and driver side with the alcohol pads that are provided in the box. Or if you have the other kind that you removed with the stickers, go ahead and clean the rocker panels on the bare painted surface to get them ready for the product to be put into place. Okay, in step 2 we're going to begin running the wires to the power source and ground from the driver and passenger side. You can either disconnect the harnesses and run them without putting the seal down, or as seen in this photo here, you can line up the seal where it is supposed to go on the rocker panel and then begin running the harnesses off of the seal. Go ahead and take these side trim panels off so that you can run the wire directly under the weather strip and hide the wire all the way to the power source. You'll want to run the wire coming off of the light directly under the weather stripping. Go ahead and lift it up. It's just held in place by some soft adhesive, and tuck it underneath this strip. You may want to use some electrical tape to protect the wiring as it's going over this ridge. Okay, here's a small panel that's held on by a few clips behind it. You're going to need to pull this back to run the passenger side wiring through the back of the console, and this is where that ruler or flat object comes in. You're going to need to feed it over to the passenger side. Make sure you're routing the proper side of the wire that does not have a plug, because the plugs need to stay near the seals so you can plug them in. So the wire goes straight from the seal to this side trim panel. That's where it feeds over and runs up under the dash, and it plugs in right here to the light once the wire is ran under the weather stripping here. Okay, once you run the passenger side wiring harness behind the console, this is where you're going to pull it out to ground and attach the positive. Here's the two harnesses that you will be running from the passenger and driver's side. Make sure these plugs stay in the location nearby where you're going to plug in the seals. Okay, here's an illustration of how we're going to run the wires. There's the plugs. You're going to need to leave them by the door seals so they can be plugged in. Route the passenger wire down the trim panel, up to the dash, behind the console, and then the driver's side, up the side of the trim panel, and over to the same location. Once you get both harnesses routed to the driver's side footwell area, you're going to want to take both negative wires, expose a considerable amount of wire on the ends, and twist them together. Then ground this negative harness to the bolt located behind the panel here. The socket or wrench you're going to use for this bolt will be a 17/32. It's important that you get a very solid ground from both of the negative wires behind this bolt. Take both the passenger and driver's positive wires that you've now ran into the footwell, strip them back about a 1/2 inch, twist them together thoroughly, and then place into the end of this connector here. Be sure that the wire is inserted into the connector and does not simply bunch up on the end of it. To get the best connection, you shouldn't push the wire in further than this red line here. Once you have the wires twisted and inserted into the end of the connector, take a pair of pliers and squeeze the end of the terminal with considerable force, locking the wire into the connector so that it will not come out in the future. Go ahead and give the wires a pull to make sure that they're not going to come out and that they will give you a good connection for the life of the product. Okay, now we're going to connect the power. You don't have to worry about removing this side trim panel like we have here. We just did that to run the wires better. But you want to look under the driver's side dash, and when you are in this position that Mike is in, this is what you're going to see. It's a row of plugs with wires coming out. We want the gray plug on the very top of the strip, and we want the gray wire. There's only one gray wire coming out of that gray plug. There's also a lighter color wire, but it is an off-white color. Make sure you get the gray wire. This is the wire that's going to give you power anytime your dome light comes on, which is when your doors are open. Take this blue clamp provided in the box. Pay close attention to the slot on the metal tooth. That is where the wire is supposed to go when you clamp it in with the pliers. If you line it up crooked, it may cut through the wire, so you'll want to make sure that slot is perfectly lined up on the wire. Then take the pliers and clamp this connector together on the wire you just located. Alright, here's a close-up photo of the blue clamp on the gray wire coming out of the gray plug. Once this is secure, take the opposite end of the connector and press it on top of this blue clamp. It is going to be a bit tight, but you do want to press it all the way onto the connector, as shown in this photo here. Here's an example if you do have the other type of connector. We do send both of them out. They work equally as well. Once you've made a good connection from the harness to the power source, you'll be ready to test the lighting. There is a timer on the doors, so if it doesn't work at first, shut both doors and reopen so that you see the dome light come on. If the dome light is on, your door seals should be working. Okay, if your lighting is not working at this time, you will want to stay tuned to this video for troubleshooting. Otherwise, at this time, if everything is okay, go ahead and place your seals down on the panel like it talks about in the printed instructions, and hide the wiring to the best of your ability. You will want to make sure that all wiring is out of the way of all foot movement. You'll want to tie them up, tape them up, anything that you can do to get them up under the panels and so that they will not fall down or be moved as you're moving your feet down around in the footwell area. Okay, now we'll get into some basic troubleshooting. Remember, we've already tested the lighting prior to installation, and now we just need to determine why it's not working at this time. 99% of the time we found that this is a basic connection issue. Okay, the first thing you'll want to check again is that the doors have been shut and reopened and that your dome light is in fact working. If the dome light is not on when your door is open, the switch may be set to off. Make sure that is set to on. Now you'll want to make sure that you're in a shaded area or dark environment because you will not see the lighting in direct sunlight. If you do, it'll be very minimal. If you've confirmed that the dome light is on but the seals are not, we'll proceed to checking the ground. The 17/32 bolt you will need to loosen, take the wire off, strip back further amount of wire, rewrap it around the post, and tighten down the bolt again in an attempt to make a better ground. Make sure that the wire has not broken loose or became compromised in any way from the grounding bolt. Recheck the lighting after you have done this, and again make sure that the doors have been shut and reopened. See if the lighting works. If it still does not work after you have regrounded the negative wires from passenger driver's side, you'll want to check the power connection. Oftentimes, because of this obscure position we have to get in to make the connections, they don't always take. So even myself, I've had to reclamp these 2 to 3 times before I got a really good solid connection. The important part is that you not give up. If you need more clamps, we'll certainly send you some, but it is very important that the power wire is connected very well with the harness. Make sure you understand how they work. There is a tooth inside of the prong that is inserted into the blue clamp, and it has to go all the way onto the blue clamp until it stops to make a very solid connection. Okay, that's about it. If they still don't work, you're going to need to take off the connections altogether and go back under the hood and confirm that the lighting still works. 99% of the time it does. We do not have these lights burn out. So give us a call if it still doesn't work, and we'll tell you how to proceed.